Hey friends, Pastor Michael from Organic Church, here with Sydney Erickson, Don Reed, Beth Jarvis, Nick Offolter, and Pastor Roger Deerdorf. Okay, so tonight's topic, what is one cause you feel very passionate about? Now, what I'd like to do is just go around the table, let you tell what you're passionate about, and then we'll just have a conversation about it. Mine's not weird, but probably not what you're going to expect. It is not funerals or death or anything like that. It's not. So I want to be very clear.
Okay.
Sid, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Okay. I would say mental health.
Oh.
Because, and I know a lot, like it's coming to light now anymore. But growing up, like, I feel like it wasn't that important, you know, like in my childhood, like it didn't come to light.
You didn't talk about it.
Yeah, like it's talked about a lot more nowadays, but with like my family history, like my mom had a lot of still does, mental health issues, and now like I've had some on and off. My sister has, so yeah, I think it's just kind of always been there for me. And been important.
So when did it become important? Like when you started to notice that your mom was having problems?
Yeah, but I didn't know like why she was having problems.
Yeah.
I think I was 5.5, and you don't know what's going on. But I think by like 7 or 8, like I kind of was like, okay, like,
yeah. Did anybody else, like when you were growing up, like there was just always that weird person in town that like would walk around with a shopping cart full of like pop cans or something? We all just thought that they were weird people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But they probably had mental health issues that didn't exist at the time. Like those things didn't exist.
I was that
for
weird
sure.
person.
He was that weird person.
He still is.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Excuse me.
Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Once upon a time, you just didn't talk about that.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Like, I mean, I was born in 96, and I think by the time we'll say 10 years.
Right?
We'll
You
say,
just make that feel old.
We graduated in 86.
We'll say 10 years old. I definitely knew what was going on.
Yeah.
So 2006, but even that, like, I don't think you really saw people start to talk about it till 2012.
That's because
2011?
it was always put behind the closed doors.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Right.
Nobody wanted to talk about
Right.
it because it was they weren't, just people.
Well, and they were
they have a
looked at
problem.
as weak.
And I think, too, some of that people also didn't know, like, mental health issues. It was like, okay, psychiatric wards were kind of the electroshock therapy, bite on the rubber mouthpiece, and
like
that
that's
was
what everyone
That's what you
envisioned.
thought of mental health issues. It wasn't like, oh, they're just unhappy all the time, or they don't know how to regulate their emotions.
Yeah.
So.
Don't you think that came from TV?
What?
All of
Well, yeah, one flew over the cuckoo's nest, man. Come on. Like that was exactly what you thought would happen if somebody thought that you had mental health issues, like you thought for sure you were going to the funny farm.
Right.
Yeah, so if anyone has questions about mental health, I've been through it.
Yeah. And what's interesting for me is that I never thought that like mental health was, not that it wasn't serious, but like I was like, oh, I'm fairly normal. I can regulate most of my emotions.
That's your opinion?
Yeah, that is my opinion. It's strictly my opinion. Don't ask anybody else. But I could regulate my emotions, and so I never really had a problem.
Yeah.
And then I remember I was at work one day, the last job that I had. I was sitting in my office, and I was like, holy crap, I'm having a heart attack. Like I thought for sure I was having a heart attack. Was legitimately thought that I was going to die. And they took me to the emergency room. It turned out I just had a panic attack. But I had never experienced that before.
Yeah.
And didn't, so like, then I was like, all right, I got to do something.
Yeah.
But a lot of that was my own demise too, because I would think too much about things that didn't really matter.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel comfortable telling people about those things. So then you find a therapist, you go to therapy, and then you're able to talk those things out.
Yeah.
So.
What's sad is that even though it's coming in light more and more, there's still less and less availability of help.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and I talk a lot about BetterHelp. That is, I'm a huge proponent of getting help the way that you can have time and makes you comfortable.
Yeah.
I don't always like to go to an in-person session. I like sometimes to just be able to make a phone call or send a text message. So with BetterHelp, you can text inside of the
Yeah,
app
that's
to your
nice.
therapist, and they respond. Now, they have criteria. They try to respond within so much time.
Yeah.
But for me, sometimes it's not even the response. It's just saying it, getting it out
Getting
there,
it out.
and being able to not have it in my mind anymore.
Yeah.
So.
Like Beth was saying, though, like I can remember, my mom would be hospitalized for 3 weeks on end. Now, the past, I don't know, 5-7 years, like it's 3 days and you're done because the
Absolutely.
insurance is like,
Yeah.
we're done. We're
Yeah.
done, and like it's just sad because you get in these cycles, then they can't get out of it because 3 days isn't going to do anything. You need
No.
at least a week to adjust those medications, a week to look at them.
Yeah.
So
Some of that too, your insurance for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And then also because so many people have government health insurance, Medicare, Medicaid, things like that, that they need available beds.
Right.
So my story is no secret. My testimony is no secret. But whenever I got out of jail, they sent me to a mental health facility in Cleveland. I have no idea where I was. They sent me by ambulance. They strapped me to a gurney. This is not a joke, and it's not funny. It's funny in retrospect. It wasn't funny in the moment.
right.
Well, it kind of was because they were doing it because I didn't like the police chief at the time. Because he lived down the street from me. We always got in trouble for the stuff that his kids did because he didn't want to believe his kids were as bad as we were. But we always took the blame for it, and I didn't like him. So anyhow, they were worried that I was going to hurt him. Apparently, the man with a gun, the man without a gun. I don't know, but so they took me to a mental health facility in Cleveland, and they put me. So this place was under construction or something, and so they had like nonviolent people on one wing, and then people who were prone to more violent activities on another wing, but they had us all together because they didn't really have the ability to keep us apart. And I'll never forget, there was this one girl there. She had to have been every bit of 6'2", 6'3". She was a really tall, really big girl. And she went into a manic episode, and she's staring down the hallway. Have you ever seen a cartoon of like a bull snorting and like that's what I was picturing watching her, because you could see in her face
her
that
eyes,
something had snapped, something had changed. And she came down the hallway at this little tiny guy that was working there. I mean, she full force came after this guy. It took everybody in the room to get her to the ground.
Yeah.
And so I was there for 5 days because I was supposed to be there for 3, but weekends don't count. So turned out,
because all the counselors aren't there and the doctors.
So I was there for 5 days, and for 5 days we experienced that, and it made me realize that like I was there. My need to be there wasn't anywhere near like the needs of the other people there. But I was thinking, if all of these people only have to be there for 3 days. Like if they just let her go after 3 days, she hasn't regulated.
Well, and she can play the card.
Oh.
They know how to play the
She
card.
knows. Yeah, I'm better now.
100%.
I'm better now.
They know
Well,
exact words to say.
Yep.
And so many times too, and it's part of the disease. It's part of the mental health issue. But they
want
take
the
their
help.
medicine for a month, and they're like, "Oh, I'm good. I haven't had an episode in a month, and now I'm not going to take my medicine."
Exactly.
And now we're in manic episodes again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
I mean, your mom has been through it. Like she has.
Yeah, she was diagnosed she was diagnosed bipolar disorder type 2. And then this huge episode we had, I don't know, 3 years ago. Is that 3 years?
Was that when she went out of state?
Yes.
Yes.
They actually, she was admitted out there in Wisconsin, and they advised her, and they think it's schizoaffective disorder, which makes sense because there are certain times where she's like, well, my boyfriend has this girl in, and like, not that we didn't believe her, but it was always the same stuff. And like, he's just not that type of person to have someone in. And we're like, wow, that makes sense, So, but it's basically schizophrenic and bipolar together.
That's scary.
Yeah.
That's scary.
But I think she was diagnosed in 2001.
So this isn't necessarily mental health related, but just like, for people who are hearing some of that, like remember that sometimes things happen in people's lives that it isn't always mental health. And here's the reason that I say that. My mother-in-law, after she had her stroke, was insistent that Eddie Murphy was trying to steal her dogs.
The Eddie Murphy.
The Eddie Murphy was trying to steal her dogs. Okay. She would tell us this. She would sob uncontrollably, and we could not figure it out. Like, what is, like, why is she doing this? Why is she acting so bizarre? So then we would have, because she was staying with us at the time, so we would have somebody take a picture of the dogs and send it to us so we could show her that the dogs were okay. And she would say, they look scared. Eddie Murphy's the one taking the picture. He's threatening them. And she believed
it. Right.
She had a UTI.
Oh,
Oh,
my
yes.
goodness.
First sign
She
in
had a
the elderly.
UTI. I was like, are you kidding
Yep.
me? Are you kidding me? I had no idea that was a thing. Had no idea.
Yeah.
But apparently you can, if that infection was so bad that it had her thinking all kinds of crazy.
Wow.
Thinking all kinds of crazy.
That's insane.
Just bizarre. But so it's not always
right.
mental health.
Yeah.
There are other things
but
that can
there's
lead
certain things that
to that behavior. But
pointed out.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
That's a good one.
yeah.
That's a good one. Dawn, I think everybody at the table probably knows yours, but what is yours?
Well, I'm a caregiver. My passion is nursing. I've been doing it for 40 years
At 3 jobs.
at 3 jobs. I did have 4, down to 3. But over my years, we had a lot of trauma in our family as well. You know, a lot of deaths when I was young to freak accidents. So, you know, it was like just one day they were here, the next day they weren't. So I guess I've always just wanted to be a fixer, wanted to try to fix everything and make it better. And so throughout my nursing career, though, I was working med surge, but if a trauma would come into the emergency room, they would be calling up, we need Dawn to come down. We need her to come down and sit with family or just console family or take them to the chapel or whatever. So there started my journey with people who were depressed or suicidal or, you know, and then I had an uncle who had committed suicide when I was young. And so I watched my mom struggle through that and how she felt guilty over not being able to fix that situation.
Yeah.
But you
She
can't,
felt,
like-
she felt that it was her fault.
Yeah.
She
Sure.
had called her that day.
Yeah.
But, you know, she had told him no, he was an alcoholic and would get very abusive when he drank and would black out and it would always come to our house.
Yeah.
My mom was the fixer, so it was always at our house when we were young.
Yeah.
And so if someone came through the ER that was suicidal or had taken a suicidal attempt, you know, obviously I'm no counselor by any means, but I would always say, you know, this is a temporary problem.
Yeah.
You know,
And death is a permanent solution
it is a
to
permanent.
a
That
temporary
is exactly
problem.
what I would
Yeah.
say. You know, that is just permanent
Yeah.
for something that's temporary. I know right now it doesn't feel like it's a temporary problem,
Yep.
but it is
Yeah.
temporary. So therein, and then also drug addiction. You know, I'm kind of jaded. I have feelings on both sides of the coin, you know, because I've lived with it. My husband is an addict and is still an addict. And so we've been separated for 15 years. But so I'm kind of jaded. But when young kids or young people would come in, or even now when I run into someone who has an addiction or, you know, they've gotten better, but then slipped back in, you know, just to try and be an uplifting person and try to help them through that. But
Well, and like a lot of the times they'll compare mental health and drug addiction.
absolutely.
Like as far as wanting help, because like you said, when they stop taking their medication, they're on a high, and it's like almost like a high, like you know, being on a drug of some sort. So
Yes.
I can see those going hand in hand.
yeah.
But-
So I then I wanted to do hospice because death has always been,
You are a strong lady.
but I love being there for the family and for the patient through that process. But then hospice went and changed their computer system.
Shame on
they
you,
all?
hospice. Shame on you.
And I am not tech savvy. I do not like technology, and it stressed me out every day.
Yeah.
So that is the job that I quit was
Yeah.
my hospice job. But I love being there to help people transition, and
Yeah.
and you can always tell when they're a Christian.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They just have that peace
Yeah.
on their face,
Yep.
you know, as they're passing. But
There's something to be said. I mean, you can see that in your personality for everybody who knows you. Like, you can see that's very calm demeanor, put together. Like, it's hard to excite you, like to get you in. And maybe you're like a duck. You
Yes.
glide across the water. What we can see is
Yeah,
calm,
yeah,
but
yeah.
underneath you
Oh, yes,
might be
absolutely.
panicked and you might be, but you're not showing that. And there aren't a lot of people that are capable of that. That's like, it takes a special person to be able to do that.
well, and like recently, I've never been able to work with children in my career. I always wanted to work in peds, but never ever had that opportunity. and now that I'm at the school taking care of that special needs little boy, working with the kids, it is so much fun. But, I had that situation there a couple weeks ago with the school and everything that was going on. And my daughter would say, these kids might be nonverbal. I might be nonverbal, but my nurse isn't. She said, Mom, I'm going to get you a T-shirt made.
Yeah, and there's something to be said about being a fixer, because I've always felt that way about myself, but like in family situations.
Yeah.
I always feel like I'm the guy that has to navigate the uncomfortable conversation.
I feel like.
Yes.
Are you the oldest?
I'm the youngest.
You're the youngest. I didn't think you were the oldest, but I think a lot of the times the oldest kind of gets that, not pushed on them, but they just pick it up.
Yeah.
And,
Lovingly, my sister's an alcoholic, so she can't be the fixer. I'm kidding. She's
I'm
not
the
an
middle
alcoholic.
child.
She's a drunk.
Is there a difference?
Yeah, there's a big difference. You have to admit you have a problem in order to be an alcoholic. No, she is. My sister, she struggled so long with always trying to be the fixer, trying to be the person that was there to help everybody. And
Right.
I'm going to go and help with this. I'm going to go and help with that. Honestly, I think it took a toll on her.
Yeah.
She has two children that one is diagnosed autistic. I don't know if the other one is actually diagnosed, but he is.
on the spectrum.
We would all
yeah.
believe that he's on the spectrum.
Yeah.
But they're not bad kids, but they're a handful. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would be a lot. And
Yeah.
then her husband always worked long days in all of the jobs that he's ever had. And so it's been a challenge.
Yeah.
So I think some of that led to that. But in the recent past, she has said, I'm not going to do that anymore. And she hasn't. So this is not a joke. I remember one time my sister shows up to my house. She lives, I could throw a rock and hit her front door from my house. So it's not far at all.
Yeah.
But she shows up to my house in her car and she's got a Mike's Hard Lemonade open and she's just carrying it like it's no big. She's like, oh, it wasn't that far. I'm like, but still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
You wanna risk that.
even if you were not drunk, if you were to get pulled
Right,
over for
right.
any reason,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? No seatbelt on, a Mike's Hard Lemonade.
Yeah.
This isn't going to end well.
No.
This isn't going to end well. But she, my sister, much to the same as you, Dawn, has a passion for caring for children specifically. Like that was always one of the things that she wanted to do. And she worked at Starlight for a while. Again, stronger than me, not a job that I could do because you're constantly challenged with things that you may not face every day.
Right.
So
Yeah. I wanted to add with that, I'm also a fixer. And I wanted to like fix my mom's problem, well then, and my younger sister, Shy, was the same way. However, she figured that out a lot earlier than I did. But it kind of like, actually probably 4 years ago when that huge episode happened, I'm like, it's not only starting to affect, like, I know it's affecting me and I know it has for years, but it's now affecting my fiance at the time. I'm like, I got to do what's best. Like, I have to take a step back. It's not that I don't love her. I just need to love her at a distance when she's not willing to want to take that help.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you have to make sure that your family is happy and healthy.
Yes.
And I mean, it's not like she's not allowed to be around. She was at your baby shower.
Yep.
And it's just, there are times when you just have to say, I need a break and I need to be able to be healthy.
Boundaries.
Yeah.
Yes.
Healthy boundaries. Yep.
Yeah.
Anything else to add?
Not at the moment.
Okay. I'm sure we'll find something. Beth, it's your turn.
My turn. As Dawn, I've been in nursing for 40 years, and I tend to be a fixer too. But my heart is led to the less fortunate, whether it be helping with the food pantry or just helping those in needs, or my heart lays in Haiti.
We've talked about that. Talked about that.
And unfortunately, right now, it's not real safe to even get finances over there.
Yeah. Because the government takes
Because
it, correct?
that, and they're even corrupt in the banks.
Yeah.
So if somebody does, you can get money to them, for them to go cash that check.
Yeah. They may not get it.
The bank on the inside is just as dirty.
Yeah.
The employees are letting somebody on the outside know, and they're robbed as soon as they go out.
Yeah.
That's not what happened to your card, is it?
No.
I had to ask.
No.
Speaking of the card thing, just real quick. So, Beth, your debit card got hacked or something. So, my mom is, God bless her, not tech savvy. Like, she doesn't, it just doesn't work for her.
It's our generation.
But
just don't want to.
She buys stuff on, Wish.
Uh-huh.
And what is it? is it
Temu.
Temu?
Wait, yeah, they did the Super Bowl so many
Yes,
commercials
it's-
just because we were all pronouncing it wrong.
Temu.
Temu, I think. Yes.
Tamu.
And when she buys stuff on there, like they just hack her credit card. Like I can't, and I'm like, Mom, stop buying stuff on there. She's like, well, it's cheap. I'm like, right,
Yeah.
but it's not really. Anyhow, go ahead.
Hey, you need to go buy a prepaid Visa
So-
card.
exactly.
That
Yeah.
way,
That's exactly
they
right.
don't have access to your banking.
Yes.
So somebody stole money out of so Alyssa and I, when we were buying our house, we moved our down payment from our checking account to an online savings account through Discover. We had a Discover It card, but we put all of our money in our Discover savings because then we couldn't take it easily.
Yes,
It would take a
yeah.
few days for it to transfer and whatnot. And I got a call from Discover one morning that somebody had taken pretty much all of our money, our whole down payment, in the process of buying the house. Like we were closing on the house in like 3 weeks and they'd taken all of our money. And the mortgage officer's like, don't make any changes to your savings. Like all of that money needs to just sit there. You don't open a credit card, don't buy a car, don't do anything. And I had to call my real estate agent and be like, dude, seriously. And he's like, you're kidding. I'm like, I'm not. But Discover gave us all of the money back as a credit until they were able to figure it out.
Wow.
But they moved the money from our savings account to one of those prepaid Chime cards.
Yeah.
Here's the crazy part. The Chime card came to my house. They had already
Mail?
taken the money off of it. But in order to open it, they had to have the correct address and telephone number, but they used a different name. But Chime would not give me any information.
Huh.
So just weird. But
Wow.
yeah, everything worked out okay. So, all right. So less fortunate.
Yep. My heart's desire is to listen. You're sitting good sick as to have a small food pantry here.
So we had one at one time. And we stopped stocking it because the only thing anybody would ever bring us were beans, bags of beans. It's not a joke. We probably had 60 bags of black beans, those dried out black beans. And I'm like, nobody wants these. So I think we ended up, after the mice got into them, we ended up taking what was unopened to the food pantry and we just stopped doing it. But honestly, food, and I think you agree with this, is not really the need at this point.
No, no.
It's the toiletries.
It is. It's very much so.
Yeah.
Jarby and I,
Couponing.
when we were at a different church, we did run a small food pantry, and I worked a lot with Journeys Inn down in Newcomerstown, the food pantry here in Uricksville, the homeless shelter, and anytime that they got overflow, they would bring it down to us. I had a girlfriend that was a mad couponer, so her and I would go
what I was
shopping
gonna say,
with coupons, and
I wish I was better at that.
go through Giant Eagle, with 20 boxes of this or that.
Yep.
Yeah, but you pay $4 for it.
Right.
You pay less than you'd pay for one.
Honestly, CVS, like, I still check my paper coupons in the mail, but most of the time I don't even use those. Like, I normally just use the CVS app and
Oh, yeah.
and then the extra bucks and all that. It's crazy.
So, I think a pantry of some sort would be, because it. When we did that pantry, the food pantry, you can only go so many times,
Correct.
and,
Which is weird to me.
Yeah. And
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't
They
realize
like
that.
when you go in, they mark down when you were there, and then they know when you were there the time before that, and they only allow so many items. Like you don't just get to go in and get what you
Yeah.
need. So
Well,
and-
that's wrong.
so I worked with like Journey's Inn and the pantry up here, and who come and
Yeah.
go to every pantry.
Yep. Yep.
But we only did like 3 days of emergency food. We did milk vouchers and egg vouchers and things like that. And it went very, very well till, we'll leave it at that.
So the egg vouchers and the milk vouchers, that's a great thought. How did that work?
We worked with, it was the IGA in Newcomerstown at that time. And they would just give me a price of what their milk vouchers or what milk was and what the egg was. And then I just, once they hung on to the vouchers.
And then they submitted them back
and
and
they
you paid
submitted
it.
them back to us and we paid them back.
That's a
We
great
pay
idea.
a bill.
That's a great
that is
idea.
a good idea.
It's a great idea. When we buy gift cards for people here. If somebody's in need of groceries, we'll go get a gift card. But we always buy it at Mako's. I don't like doing that because Mako's prices tend to be higher than going to Walmart. But Mako's, because it's a paper gift certificate, you can't use it on cigarettes, you can't use it on beer, you can't use it on it's food. That's it. So it makes it a lot like we know that's what it's getting spent on.
Yes.
So yeah, we are we've always been a little bit funny about that, and not because we don't want to help people, but if you're telling me you need groceries, I want to help you with groceries.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not with the frivolous stuff. Beth, I have a question for you.
Oh boy, here it goes.
How do you feel about like government assistance and like welfare, food stamps? And I want to be very clear. I'm not saying that it's not a good thing. I'm just curious how because if you're passionate about helping those in need, that's what that program is designed for.
I agree, but I also believe you see generational abuse.
Okay. So my next question is it because it's too much money? So I don't know how much a person gets on food stamps anymore, but here's what I know. I know lots of people who collect food stamps, and then there's so much money, get so much money that they can buy all of their groceries and then sell some of it to somebody else to like for income.
Right.
Well, I didn't think that they got actual food stamps anymore. I thought they got
They have
cards.
They get a card.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a
But
card.
then
But what they do is what I'll do is
okay, they
I
give
went and bought
somebody
my
the
groceries and I got $300 on my card. I bought $150 worth of groceries. You give me $50, I'll give you my card and you can go
okay.
spend whatever you want.
I know.
You do see abuse. I feel that.
So, but here's the
But
reason.
during COVID and they stacked those
Yeah.
peoples with extra
Yeah.
for what purpose? I don't know.
Well, my question, I guess.
and then they cut them and now they can't make ends meet.
Right, because they're so used to it. They were so used to having all that money. So here's the reason I asked that question. A lot of the people that I see go through food pantries don't qualify for food stamps.
Exactly.
Which is fascinating to me because if they're in such shape that they have to be standing in line at a food pantry and don't qualify for government assistance, I think the program is broken.
Right.
Well, it is. It's just like how many people that go without health insurance
Oh yeah. I'm
because they make,
Yep.
say they make $120 less or more a month
Right.
than what they can make, then you should be able to offer them something that they
Prorate
pay that
something.
over.
Yes.
Right.
That they
Yeah,
pay that back
supplement.
to you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some sort of
Other than just go without.
I'm Googling right now what the minimum is in the state of Ohio for food stamps. Like what's
Yeah.
the threshold? What's the maximum?
Any guesses?
I know it's like for the elderly to qualify for like the passport program. And once they qualify for that, they automatically qualify for Medicaid assistance and the medical card and things. And that for a single person is $1,500. But look at it, $1,500. Okay, so you're paying $700 a month rent now.
Yeah.
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 What rent prices are?
Yeah. Okay, that tells me how much they're paying, how much they're giving. A single person in a household can only have a gross income of $1,473.
Yeah.
Okay. A month. $1,473 a month. Rent is $500-600. Let's assume they're in a small one-bedroom apartment. $600, right?
600. Yeah.
Okay. So that is almost all of their, that's almost half of their income. Now they've got to pay gas, water, electric, whatever other car payment, all of those things. Now I'm not saying that it's not enough. What I'm saying is I feel like that's not a whole lot of money, but there are people making more than that that are still in the same place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's see here. A family of 4. This is embarrassing. $3,007. Okay, so if you just look at me and Alyssa, there are 5 of us in the house. We don't Aaron and Aiden, we won't count in there. There are 5 of us in the house. I make more than that. But every month we have to you have to budget in order to we don't, there isn't a surplus of money. We don't, at the end of the month, we
Right,
don't,
right.
Scrooge McDuck in
Yeah.
all of our extra money. There is that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's not very much money. But most people probably make over those numbers because
Yeah.
it's not a lot of money.
Yeah.
You would almost have to be not working in order
Yes.
to make less than that. It's crazy. Okay. So you say we need a food pantry that just serves everybody all the time. If somebody calls and says, I need food, you're like, yep, we got you.
Yeah. But I believe because the availability of the other pantries, I feel the churches need to just offer maybe a 3-day. Okay, we're going to get you through a 3-day emergency until you can get help someplace else.
Because a lot of those pantries aren't open 7 days a week, 5 days a week.
Exactly.
Right.
I think that one's only open 3 days a week, the one in Yorksville right now. They were 4, and I think they went down to
Yeah.
3. And they were talking about potentially going to 2 because
No help.
they didn't have enough
No.
help. Right.
Well, the elderly that used to work down there aren't
Yeah, and
there anymore.
There was a one particular guy, I guess, that helped quite a bit. He would go out and pick up the food from other places and bring it, and he's stepped back quite a bit. So they're struggling to just get the stuff even there and then stocked.
Well, when you get old, you get tired.
Yeah, yeah, you'd know.
You're right.
But I also truly believe that you do need to offer toiletries.
Yeah.
You know, you're not.
Oh yeah.
I agree.
You're not going to get a job if you're going and you don't have no deodorant or shampoo.
Well,
and
or
you're-
you can't wash your clothes. I
Exactly.
mean,
Right.
even like
Right.
Yeah.
shampoo, conditioner, body wash, all of those things are important essentials to everyday life. Like
Yeah.
you can't go without those things,
Yeah.
but you can't get them in a food pantry most of the time.
No,
Right.
if they get government funding, then and then that money can only be used towards food.
Food,
And
right.
I think they go to Akron and
But
get their stuff.
Yeah, from the like there's an like the
Yeah.
Akron Food Bank or something,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
it's like a warehouse.
And then if money goes in, unless it's designated to go to cleaning products or this or that, it can't be spent for that.
Well,
it has to go towards food.
Explain to me though. So how do those people survive? Like I'm thinking about that food stamp number. So okay, so I get $1,000 a month, and I qualify for food stamps. Okay. They give me a bunch of money in food stamps, but I can't go buy any of the other stuff that I need. But they might give me $300 in food stamps, which is way more than I need in groceries. So now I'm just like racking up this grocery. And then I go back and I think, but why can I buy an Easter basket or junk with that food stamp that's not really like,
Yeah.
to me, it would make more sense that there are toiletries that would qualify as well.
Yeah.
Right.
You
Yeah.
can't buy toilet paper. You can't buy,
Right.
paper
Paper towels. You can't
paper
buy
towels.
shampoo,
Right.
conditioner, body wash,
None of that.
none of that stuff.
Toothpaste, toothbrushes.
Yeah.
I think some of it starts with good intentions. The Easter basket.
Oh, sure.
Because they're thinking, kids aren't going to get an Easter basket
Yeah.
because their parents can't afford it.
Yeah, well, my
So
kids
they
don't get
start
Easter
that
baskets because
system.
I can't afford it. Have you seen the price of this stuff?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People treat it like it's a second Christmas.
But like I've said before, I was a grocery store manager for 5 years, and I saw the abuse firsthand. Like
Yeah.
we'd have Pepsi on sale, 12
what I was
packs,
gonna
3
say,
for $10. I mean, there would be people that would just fill a
Stocking up.
cart up of just Pepsi.
Yep. Swipe the card.
and pay for it with
Yep.
a food card.
Yep.
So something's out of whack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
But how to fix it, I don't know.
Right.
That's the problem. I think we've just, again, the intention started good. The original intention was good. But the program has gotten so big that nobody's looking at the fine details. Nobody's looking at these government workers, they're seeing this stuff. Like they go to the store and they see it too, but they're like, well, what are you going to do now? It's too
Right.
late to change it.
Yeah.
You can't fight City Hall.
Right.
That's right where you would be,
Yep.
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 Yeah.
Do you think nobody wants to change it?
I think it's too late to change unless it's a massive overhaul where you say, you know what, we're stopping all and we'll use the word entitlements. And I don't here's the thing. I think that older people who have worked their entire lives should be able to receive that benefit. Right? Veterans should be able to receive that benefit. People who have gone before us and done things that we haven't done should be entitled to those benefits. But it shouldn't be just, oh, well, I don't want to work.
Yeah.
I can't find a job. No. No. It's like Cousin Eddie. I'm holding out for a management position.
Right. Yes.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you've never had a job. You can't hold out for a management position. Like you have to.
Yeah.
And
I don't want to
too
work
out
for
of shape.
minimum wage.
Yeah.
And
too
I-
out of shape to work. I got
And the
this-
thing is if they would, and I think a quick, easy fix. Now I'm no economical. Well, I don't know what that word is. Whatever they call those people, economists. Is that what they call them?
Yeah.
I'm no economist, so that might be made up. I don't know. But if you just said, okay, you get it for 3 months, and then you're on a 6-month waiting period. Like you get 3 months, that's emergency. We're gonna help you for 3 months. If you don't have a job where you show that you have tried to work, sorry,
not that you just look for three
you
jobs.
can't look.
Right.
You have
Right.
to have a job. You have to
Or
hold
like
down a
you
job.
said, get interviews, but then they
Yeah.
don't show up
Yep.
to them. Yeah.
Unemployment.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
That's
It's
about
just
that's about what it
right, and that's what I'm saying. It
you know?
needs to be you've held down a job, and because then people are going to get serious, right?
Right.
And then make it a little harder to apply the second time.
Yeah.
Make it a little harder to apply the third time and the fourth time and the fifth time. I mean, it makes sense, right? It puts people in the workforce, but yeah, who am I? What do I know?
Well, Dawn and I's even seen the unfairness with us both having home health backgrounds. You get an elderly person that needs help around their home. They need, things like that. But because they've worked and they've saved
Yes.
and they own their home,
Yes,
guess
they
what?
don't qualify.
They don't get
Medicare comes in and says, okay,
We're
going to
taking it
give
all.
you, Medicare's going to give you a nurse for 2 weeks and you're allowed 5 physical therapy visits. And then after that, you're on your own.
Yep. And again, it's just, we have created this like vacuum of assistance. It all goes to the needy, or I shouldn't say that, the unwilling versus those who have earned it.
Yes.
But you get somebody that qualifies for Medicaid. They've got somebody that comes and cleans their house,
Yeah.
that runs their errands.
Yeah.
They can get as many physical therapy visits as the doctor
Yep.
feels is
How's
necessary.
that work?
I
want to get on
it's
that
just,
plan.
but because the choices that they've made in their life,
Yeah. I
they
had
qualify for more.
when I first moved back to the area and I was looking for work, I had gotten a call from a company who basically drove people to their appointments and the insurance paid for it. So like I would get a call that says, hey, you've got 3 runs tomorrow. I didn't work the job, but like I walked through the process with them. And they said, you'll basically get a call at 10 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night, and they'll give you your route for the following day. You have to drive to Zanesville, pick this person up, take them to the doctor, wait for them to get done, take them back home. Then you're going to go over here. Or maybe while that person's in the appointment, you're going to run over here and pick this person up and do that. Basically, that was your day. However, you did not get paid if the person didn't come out of their house and get in the car. You had to physically take them to the appointment. So I couldn't just drive to Zanesville and show up and knock on the door. Nobody came out. Okay, we're still getting paid. Insurance wouldn't pay it. But insurance paid for those rides. And that's how that company made their money. When they gonna start paying our gas to go to the doctor? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's crazy. But I get it. I get that there's a need for some of that assistance. But again, for the right populace of people, not just those who don't want.
Yeah.
Right.
So, okay. Nick, what's your passion? Gettysburg.
I think it's the veterans.
Yeah. That's,
And I think it ties into what each of you has talked about. That's kind of my passion. And it started from my passion for history. Just learning, when I was young, I thought, wow, that would have been great to be in that war and experience that. When you're a kid.
Said no one ever.
Yeah. But when you're a kid, that's all glorified. You think, wow, but as you get older and the more I learn about it, you're like, no, I wouldn't want to be one of those
wouldn't
people.
wanted to have been there. Right?
And just the veterans, I'm a firm believer that there shouldn't be 1 cent spent on space travel or climate control or anything if we have one veteran that has has seen military service that is can't get help.
Yeah.
That's
I'm no expert, but I understand that like to get into the VA for anything, there's a long wait.
Yeah.
Like,
and there shouldn't be.
They can't just go to any doctor. They have to go to a VA
You
doctor.
gotta go to a VA doctor.
Yeah. And then the other thing that I'm to understand, and again, I'm not an expert, but like if you go to, what do they call it? Tent City in California, Skid Row, places like that. A lot of it's a large portion of those are veterans.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because they've come back from wars and whatever, and they can't readjust to civilian life, and they're basically just like dropped there and left there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there, again, mental health comes in.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
And
it's
because the
nothing-
lack of help.
Yeah. And it's nothing new.
No.
I mean,
no.
Going back to the Civil War, I mean, after the war, those guys, they had to go back and try to put their lives back together and try to make a living for their family. And it was a hard go of it. And, of course, they would try to get, if they were wounded, to the point where they couldn't work, it was very hard to get any kind of pension from the federal government to keep things going. So a lot of those guys struggled, and this has continued on through every war that we've had. I mean, those guys just really struggle, to get the support they need. And a lot of times, you come home and you're not the same person.
Right.
You've
Right.
experienced a lot of different things,
Right.
mental health, all of those things. And it's very, very hard to put your feet back on the ground and be normal and fit back into society. And so part of my passion is telling these soldier stories and trying to put them out there and trying to, let people know what they really went through, because I think that's important, not only for appreciation for what we have in this country, but but just for those people's lives, because
Yeah,
a lot of those people
'cause it
didn't get to
mattered.
tell their stories.
Mhm.
Those
Right.
stories have been forgotten.
Right.
And I think the more that we keep those stories alive, I think it can bring a lot of things to light.
Yeah.
There's actually one soldier I've emailed his ancestors, his family, because I don't know a whole lot about him. But he was this soldier from Ohio. He lived in Cleveland, and during the Battle of Gettysburg, he captured a rebel battle flag, and he was grievously wounded. And turns out, I learned that he had to walk home from Gettysburg.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god.
Wounded, and this wound was like he had this wound in his back and his hip, and he had to find his own way home. So that's number one. I mean, you're a U.S. soldier, putting your life on the line for your country, and they're like, well, yeah, you can get home if you can find a way home, but we're not,
So not caring
the Army's
for our
on the move.
veterans
Yeah.
started
right.
way back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
This isn't new
something
news.
we've always dealt with, and so he gets back home. And he went up through the ranks. So, and he wasn't just like a private. He ended up being a captain. He was part of a general staff. So he was a rather important person too.
Yeah.
But that didn't
matter.
matter at all.
Didn't matter.
So he survives the war, and he becomes like a police judge in Cleveland after the fact. A real successful lawyer, police judge. The history from what I read in Gettysburg books, you talk about him during the battle, but you don't hear any more.
Yeah.
Right.
So I learned all this stuff just by talking to his ancestors, looking up old newspaper stuff like that. So I learned he becomes this judge. But then I found his obituary, and it says he got killed by getting run over by one of those trolley cars. And this was like in 1894. So that's when trolley cars,
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, what? How did, he survives that
All of
war
that,
and all
right.
that stuff to get
Yeah.
Hit by a
hit by
trolley
the
car.
trolley car.
Yeah.
By a truck.
Yeah.
So I do more and more research,
Yeah.
and it turns out I found out, well, he had a drinking problem.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so I start talking to, again, his family and ancestors, and kind of comes to light that after the war, he was having a lot of problems, like PTSD,
Right.
which back then
Back then was not.
you
Wasn't
did
a
not
thing.
talk about
Yeah,
that. It was
wasn't a
not a
thing.
thing.
Yep.
If you had issues, you didn't speak of
Yep.
Yep.
it.
Toughen
but-
up.
Yeah.
Self-medicate.
So he had PTSD, and so he was dealing with it with this alcohol abuse. And I think I even I got the coroner's report, and yeah, they did find alcohol in his system, and they think it contributed that it wasn't even perhaps that he either fell off the trolley car because he was a little intoxicated, wasn't watching what he was
That's
doing.
a bad day.
Yeah.
Or he walked out in front of the
Yeah.
trolley car and got ran over. So he would die from those wounds after a
That's
few
nuts.
days. But
Yeah.
Man.
so it's just really a lot of these guys, really sad stories that, they, like I said, they went through that war, and they have a great career after the fact, but they're struggling from that war and from those circumstances. And they're struggling. And a lot of them, like I said, are struggling. They weren't all as lucky as he was to get that kind of job.
Yeah.
Some of them
Right.
never, come out of that. They're just rubbing pennies together for the
Yeah.
rest of their lives, and they're constantly, sending requests to the government for any kind of help. And they're getting like, I don't know what the conversion rate is, but they're getting like $2 a month.
Yeah.
And even if they pass, then their wife or whoever makes it even harder for them to get help.
Yeah, they get $5 a month survivorship, because my wife found she was doing that genealogy, and she found a survivorship paper. I don't know who it was, but it was the benefits were $5 a month.
That's crazy. That's like a Social Security raise nowadays.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So, when you talk about that, Vietnam was one that always struck me. A lot of those guys didn't ask to go over there. Drafted. They were sent there. They were forced to go, to come back to be spit on and called names.
right.
And like, it just never made sense to me. And I know that, like, war is never sexy. Like, it's not something that people think is like, it's not, it sells, you know what I mean? Like, it gets people to vote. It does all of the things, but it's not glamorous. People don't come back from war in better shape than they went.
No,
Yeah.
worse shape.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
But people
No,
don't
even
realize
when you're a decorated hero.
right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Lost a leg, lost 2 legs.
Yep.
You know, an arm,
Even if it's
an
physical,
eye.
you still that mental. I mean,
Yeah. That you never.
Yeah, even if you don't have a scratch on you.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially Vietnam.
Yep.
Yeah.
'Cause, I mean, you think about the military aspect of it, but just imagine being dropped in the middle of a jungle
Yeah.
somewhere.
There's
and you
no-
don't know if you're ever leaving.
Yeah. There's no rhyme or reason to what's going to happen. You know what I mean? You're always on the lookout. It just,
And you're dealing with snakes.
Yep.
And
yep.
you're dealing
All
with
the
all kinds of
diseases.
stuff that has even nothing to do
Yeah.
with military or
War.
the enemy, anything
Yeah.
like that.
And according to Forrest Gump, the rain that goes up.
yeah, sometimes it's sideways.
All right, Roger, what's yours?
Well, I have a passion for the men of the church.
Okay. That's good because I don't like any of them. Just kidding. Just kidding. I like myself just fine.
You don't even like me. You even told Sis that tonight.
I did. Yep. I said Roger. He's just always a pain in my neck.
Roger's just being a suck up right now.
Hey, I gotta get it once.
Roger.
But no, I mean, the men grow the church. And it's a proven fact though that there are more ladies in the church than there are men.
Yep.
And we need to get more. We need to do more as men in the church, just to fellowship and to, I don't know, I guess maybe exchange ideas and our thoughts on the way we feel about the Lord and how He works in each and every one of our lives. That, and I used to go to the funeral homes. I went there.
Yeah, been there a time or two.
thought we weren't going there today.
I'm not. Roger did. That was all Roger.
No, the nursing home. And there's a ministry in the nursing home too.
There is.
It's not. And it's hard because a lot of times you get real close to somebody, and then all of a sudden they're gone.
Yeah.
And what's really hard is doing that. And
Hey,
then,
pick your microphone up so you quit hitting the cord, Roger.
and then doing.
Jeez, it's driving me crazy.
He's never satisfied.
Boing, boing.
Never satisfied.
Go ahead.
And no, Beth, I didn't help him with his organ, with his piano.
No, because I still got all of my digits. That's how you know.
I figured Roger must have been behind the scenes on this one.
But what's really hard, you get to know somebody, and then they're gone,
That's why I stopped working in a nursing home when I was young.
and then to do their funeral,
Yeah.
it's, I don't know, 3 times as hard.
Yeah.
So, but I enjoyed doing things with the men of the church, and I think we need to get more participation from the men of the
Yeah.
church.
Yep. A lot of times we like to, I'm too busy, or, I'm not sappy like that. See, it is a proven fact that ladies are more emotional and they can connect
Yeah.
in that emotional
At a higher
space.
level.
Whereas us guys, we like to sit here with our arms crossed and pretend like we're too tough to, like, there's one guy at Denison.
Not I, said the little redhead.
There's one guy at Denison Foursquare, and I never remember his name, but even if I did, I wouldn't say it on here. But that dude, every time I go to a men's retreat and he's there, he cries every time. And I think, like, if more men would do that, like last Sunday, we had 3 guys at the altar together with their arms around each other. I was like, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not trying to be like, oh, good for them. I'm saying,
Yeah.
like, when we can be vulnerable like
Yes,
that,
that's right.
is so much better for
Yeah.
ourselves. Okay. It's statistic time. Can I share some statistics on your topic?
Okay,
here we go.
whip it on me.
Okay. 3.5% of families get saved if the child gets saved first.
3.5.
3.5% of families will get saved if a child gets saved first. So that's if you send your kid to VBS or to church or whatever. They get saved. They come home. They're telling the parents about it. The parents go to church. They get saved as well. 3.5% of the time.
But usually that's only the mother first.
Yes, that would be walk
Yeah.
it down. Okay, 17% of the time families will get saved if the wife gets saved first.
Can I guess the husband?
I am going to ask everybody to guess the husband. What do you think?
93.
93,
80.
80,
90.
90,
87.
87,
Okay.
95.
95. The answer is 93%.
Ooh.
93% of families will get saved if the
crazy.
husband gets saved first. So that means dad has to come to church, accept Christ, and push that into his family. And I don't mean in a forceful way, but I'm saying like live that life, walk that walk. And it doesn't happen.
No, it
It
doesn't.
just doesn't happen.
No.
So many guys are afraid to put themselves out there. So, yeah, it is bizarre to me, but
Yeah.
I can say that with confidence. I can say it's weird to me because my wife and I were both saved when we met, so it wasn't weird for us to go to
Right.
church. It wasn't like, oh, I don't want to look weak, or oh, I don't want people to think poorly of me, or I don't want my poor Marcus. Poor Marcus. The people at his work, they'll call him a Bible thumper because he goes to church and he doesn't. But he
Doesn't care.
water off a duck's back. He just keeps on going,
Good.
and that's the way it should be. But so many people are afraid of that or
Yeah.
embarrassed by that. So, yeah.
Do you think it's something has to do with the fact that the father or the mother really isn't the patriarch of the family anymore because everything is so like, both parents work,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
is more equal.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You think
For
that
sure.
has anything to do with it? That
Well, I think that it might throw off that scale a little bit, but I think at the end of the day, if your family wasn't saved and you came to church and got saved and started bringing them with you, they have a better chance of being saved at that point than if it was just Margie saved and bringing them.
Well,
because what happens is us as men, we tend to be the guy that says, "Well, I'm just going to stay at home and watch TV," right? Like. Bring my remote, or like you have to hide the remote in order to get the husband to come to church with you because he's going to stay at home and watch. Like that's just the way that it is. But if a dad goes, the family looks at it and goes, "Oh, if dad's going, we're all going to go."
We have an example of that right here in our church.
Hit me with it.
Uh,
He's like, "I don't know their names."
no, Dan Crone.
Oh
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
He's the first one
Yeah.
that came to church.
yeah, yep. And now look at them.
And
They're a whole side of the church. They take up a whole section.
Yeah. So that's
New guests every week.
Yes. Yes.
Celebrity appearances. Who knows what's going to show up with the Crone family? Yeah, you're right.
And it said we need to go to the range this summer.
Yeah.
Some more.
Yep.
I found a real good place.
Oh boy.
Oh.
Oh boy. Oh boy. All right. My turn.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
your turn. I
My
suppose.
passion is leadership and discipleship. I love to develop leaders, but I even more so love to develop people who will disciple other people. So I don't want to be, I am very apostolic in my mindset. Like I'm very much so an apostle in the fivefold ministry. What I like to do is build a system and hand it off to somebody else. I love to build this, hand it off to somebody. But it's what's made me successful in all of my jobs in leadership in the church, all of those things. Because I look like I'm very controlling, but once I'm good, once I can trust you, and once I know
Yeah.
that you're willing to listen to what I'm saying to you,
You can hand that baby off.
baby, I don't want to see that sucker ever
Yeah.
again.
That's why I'm sitting in the back seat because I don't listen to it.
So many times I find myself surrounded by people who have potential to be strong leaders but don't want to be leaders, and so you start having
You have to hold
conversations
their
with them
hand
like
the whole
what.
time.
What is it that you desire to do? And then what are your struggles? What's holding you back from greater? What's holding you back from taking that next step? And it takes a long time for some people, but once they open up, I have this Amish girl that works for me. She started about a year after I did. Okay. She started her position with us about a year after I did. And she started out as a housekeeper, just cleaning rooms. And now she is like third in charge in our company.
Oh my gosh.
So you've got, it's the three owners, me, my hotel general manager, and then her.
Wow.
Like that's kind of the hierarchy.
Yeah.
And she's so much smarter than I am. Like she just, when I have a problem, I'll call her and be like, hey, let's sit down and talk. And I'll throw everything on the table and she'll come back with, well, here are the 5 solutions I would give you. She's just so much smarter than I am. But she loves self-help books. She does by choice, like electroshock therapy.
Really?
She goes to it's a chiropractor in Millersburg, and they just send these like soft electrical volts. They put this little thing on her, and she loves it. She comes back, and you can see it in her eyes that she's just been electrocuted for 35 minutes.
Didn't you say you wanted to do
I
that?
want to do it, but there's a waiting list. There's a waiting list.
Yeah.
So, but she says that it clears your mind, and it allows her to focus and think and do all of the things.
How long is the session?
I have no idea, but too long, I'm sure. Like, blah, blah. It's got to be too long. You come out looking like Kramer, your hair standing up on it. You start sliding through doors. But so that's the type of, like, I invested so much time just with her. Like, hey, what's your passion? What do you want to do? I would pay for her to go to classes. Like, if she felt like this seminar would be good for her, I absolutely love that. Because I think when we develop people like that, this might offend some people. I hope it doesn't, but it might. But if you've ever watched any of the Harry Potter movies, they talk about how Voldemort leaves Horcruxes, which are parts of himself in these inanimate objects. That's how I believe whenever I train somebody, when I create a leader, the stuff that I believe in, the stuff that I'm passionate about, I instill that in people,
Right.
and then they take that with them.
Yeah.
So when you're passionate about creating disciples, when you're passionate about creating leaders, they go and create leaders.
Right.
And there's this never-ending cycle of little Michaels running around, which is dangerous for the world. Which is dangerous for the world.
You had me sold. I'm gonna
You were on board until that came up. Huh?
But so my owners called me into a meeting a couple of weeks ago just about the new property that we had bought, and talking about like, hey, we really want to juice this thing up. We really want to start to get to where we want to be before busy season starts. And they said, your greatest asset to us right now is developing new leaders. And so I'm like, all right, you said it. Now just remember, you told me that when I'm doing this for the next 6 months. And man, that's where I spend my time. That's where I spend my energy. I make a list of my emerging leaders, lists of the people who I think are great leaders. And then I'm after them all the time. Hey, tell me, what about this? Hey, I saw that you said this to that person. Tell me why you said it that way. And they're like, why are you asking me all of these questions? And then it starts to click. And then I'm like, hey, let's go to lunch. Let's talk about this, that, or the other.
Right.
And they really they feel empowered, because I'm like, I don't want to slow you down. I want you to make decisions, but just know I want to know why you make those decisions. I want to know what makes you tick, because then you find their strengths. If you're talking about a 5-fold ministry, there's no one power that is greater than the other. You need all 5 of them to make ministry work. And it happens in the workplace the same way. You have to have all of those personalities. You look at a disc profile. You need all of those people in order to make a team function.
Yeah.
Enneagrams, all of those things, all of those tests. And they're all great in their own right. I don't think that any of those determine who you are.
No.
Because believe it or not, I score very high in the D, which is driven, and I want to put a check in the box, but I am not. I'm a high I all day, every day. I want to interact with people. I want to have conversations. I want to sit and chat. But give me that list of tasks and I'm going to knock them out. But that's because I want to get back to developing leaders.
Right.
I want to get this over with so that I can spend my time with my people.
Yeah.
I think a lot of employers fail at that.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
Guaranteed. Because what happens is you're good at your job, right? Like you can perform the hard skills, but your soft skills absolutely suck. It's the nicest way to say it, right? You know people that, like, when you walk into a business, go to Walmart. Those cashiers can ring you out all day, every day, right? They all know all of the right buttons to key. Most of them know the little code for bananas and the little code for apples, and they know all of those things. But do you want to talk to any of them? Not typically.
No.
Because they have no soft skills.
Right.
And so nobody's developing those people. Nobody's trying to make them better. They're hard skills only. That's all they want from them. And that's not the way that we should be. Every employer should have somebody developing their people. Always.
I agree.
Yeah.
I do an emerging leaders lunch. It's typically once a quarter. Sometimes it's twice a quarter, depending. But it's always about what's the next step for you. Who is your replacement? Are you developing somebody to take your place? What's your line of succession look like? And so they're always like, well, who's your successor? I said, I don't need to tell you that. You'll know when you know. When that person is ready, you'll know. And I always tell them, when that person gets to that point, I hope I'm ready to move on. I hope there's an open spot somewhere else for me to go.
Yeah.
Because if I'm just sitting here, I'm getting stagnant, and that's not what I want. And I used to be upset when somebody that I really liked, that I spent a lot of time with, would move on to another company. And then I realized that that's what it's all about. Because I've equipped them to go out and do my job somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's probably the biggest
they can't
compliment
stay
you can
stagnant.
get. Right.
Yeah.
Because if I'm not allowing them to grow, if I'm not allowing them the opportunity to leave, and I've had people leave and come back, they're like, I can't work for anybody but you. I had somebody say to me one time, you ever quit? I'm quitting too. I said, don't you dare. Don't you dare, because I don't want you to be following me. I want you to be growing yourself. I want to be the one that challenges you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think leadership is probably where my biggest passion is at. And I love to stretch people. One of the things, and last week when Pastor Holly preached, for me, it's kind of, and I don't know if any of you noticed, but I stood in the sound booth almost the entire time. I stood there because it's like this proud dad moment watching her do it. She's been in ministry far longer than I have, but her voice was so strong on Sunday. She was so confident on Sunday. It was a different Holly on Sunday. And I don't know how to explain it, but like, it's that pouring into that constant affirmation, like, hey, you've got this. And it's just so different when you start to see that come out in people.
Yeah.
Like when you can really pour yourself into people and they like, I get it now. I get what you're saying. I understand what you're telling me. Not just, okay, I hear you. Okay,
Right,
okay, okay. And you'll always have those people. You'll pour into people who don't hear you. You'll disciple people who don't actually want to follow Christ. Nothing you can do about it. You just have to do your best. I had an opportunity to go work for Kevin Gray at Lauren. It's Lauren International now.
Yeah.
They bought 2 hotels. They got my name from a friend of a friend of a friend. They call me. They're like, we want to meet with you. We want you to come and run all of our hotels. They bought 2 at one time. We want you to come run them, but we want to talk through what our vision is and what our plan is. So what's the first thing I do? I pull up their mission, vision, values. I want to walk into that meeting intelligent, right? I sit down with them. I go through 5 different meetings with them, and they close the deal. They hadn't even closed at that point. So it was kind of like under wraps. They closed the deal and I never hear from them. And so I send Kevin a text. I'm like, hey, I see that you closed. Like, I hope everything worked out okay. And he's like, yeah, I'll call you soon. A couple of days went by, I still hadn't heard from him. And then I had heard that they had hired another management company. They'd hired a real management company rather than just hiring a general manager and letting them run it. And he called me and he apologized and said, I'm sorry for the way things worked out. I just want you to know it wasn't you. We just decided to do something different. I was upset by that. I was hurt by that because I was like, I put all of that time into telling you what the potential this business had.
Yeah.
And it turned out that after they bought it, they turned around and sold it immediately. And he wasn't willing to pull me from where I was at for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever it was going to be.
Yeah, they knew that
he
was
knew
gonna
he
happen.
wasn't
Yeah.
going to keep it.
Yeah.
That is a leader.
Yeah.
That's somebody, and he told me, don't lose contact. I still want to talk to you. There's always going to be opportunities with us. I'm not looking to leave where I'm at.
Yeah.
To be very clear, but somebody who would he saw what he needed. I was what he needed in that moment, but he knew that if he took me from where I was at, he wasn't going to be able to offer that to me beyond a couple of months.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
a real leader. And he never came back to me. I think the part that hurt was he didn't say to me, hey, we're going a different direction, because he didn't know, and he wasn't going to share information that wasn't set in stone.
Right.
Because he wasn't going to create confusion. He wasn't going to make somebody uncomfortable. He was like a very honest person. And I was in such awe of that and just how impressive that was. And so now I'm like, okay, that's my aspiration. I want to be able to treat people that way. I want people to see me that way. I want people to talk to me and go, that guy's got it together and he's willing to do what's right.
Well, and like he did that all without even feeling the need to like explain himself afterwards. Like you figured it out, like putting the puzzle pieces together.
Yeah, and he didn't need to explain it to me.
Right.
He owed me nothing. I have fired people before that are shocked that they're getting fired. And I'm like, you're shocked. Really, you're shocked. Because really, you fired yourself. I'm just the one that told you. Right?
Yep.
And those are people that you can't develop. But then you get to those ones that are like, I've built strong relationships with, and then they've become complacent in that relationship, and they think, well, I'm untouchable. I've been working with him for so long. He's not going to fire me. And you're like, hey, sorry.
Yeah.
This isn't working. And they're crushed. They're hurt. A good manager will always tell you when it's not working out.
Yeah.
A good leader will always, and it was never a surprise. Like, hey, why? I had this one girl that worked for me. She was so sweet, but she was so oblivious. So sweet, but so oblivious. I would send her an email that said, hey, here are 5 things that I noticed from your week last week that were not acceptable. I need you to fix these. And it was always very, very point blank, very plainly like, I need you to work on these things. And, 2 weeks would go by and haven't heard anything. And I'd follow up. Hey, give me updates on these. And sorry, I didn't get to it. Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. And then when you have that conversation, like, hey, this isn't working, you're going to need to,
Then
I've got 2 options.
surprised,
I've got 2 options. It's go or move to this department. And they're shocked.
Yep.
I don't understand why you're shocked.
Nope.
The 3 emails that you got in a 3-week period should tell you that this was serious and you needed to handle it.
Definitely.
Yeah. And that's just part of the development. You do what you do,
Right.
So, but I love leadership. It's one of my favorite things ever. But it's also a downfall sometimes because I have to turn it off.
Yeah.
You can't go home and treat your kids like employees. It doesn't work.
What?
I know. I've tried. I tried for probably the first 12 years of my oldest son's life. It doesn't work like that. They don't respond to you're fired. It doesn't work. But that also took me leaving a toxic work environment and going to a company that wanted to invest in me to learn all of that leadership stuff too.
Yeah.
So
For sure.
sometimes you have to know when it's time to go. Took me 2 years too long to figure it out, but sometimes you have to know.
Oh, yeah. I spent 15 years at a place.
And you don't, like, in the moment, and this is just a side note as to how I got to where I was. That the job that I had, I was there for, I don't know, 4 years, something like that. They had me as a hotel GM, like my 4th week there, and it was stupid because I didn't know anything about running a hotel. But in year 4, when I was ready to leave, like, I was starting to realize I was unhappy. I mean, every day. So my day would typically start at 7 a.m. and we would button up at about 4. But my boss at the time was you're working an 8 to 10 hour day every day. There was no like, oh, I'm done with my work earlier. I worked a 14-hour day this day. You had to be there until a certain time. And it was because she wanted us there with her because she couldn't be alone. Like, she was very codependent. And so every day at 4:00, I would walk over to the bar. We had a bar in our hotel. I would get a bottle of wine. I'd bring it back. I'd crack it open on my desk and I would drink that entire bottle of wine while I sat there between 4 and 5 o'clock. That's miserable because like I didn't want to be there, but I knew I had to be. I had to be there to pay my bills. And now it would just, it's weird when you finally realize like it clicks that I've got to go.
Yeah.
I can't do this.
It's very easy to forget your value.
Oh yeah. 100%.
Especially when you're in
Very
that.
easy.
Yep. 100%. Yeah.
Just
when
cycle.
you start doing something for so many years, I mean, you get comfortable with it. And you just kind of, you forget how valuable you are if you're a good employee.
Yep. Well, and when you're a good employee, bad bosses will just continue to give you work until you burn out.
Yes.
And then when you burn out, we're like, well, why didn't
What's
you get
wrong
that
with
done?
you?
What's your problem?
Yeah, why didn't you say something?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's your fault, not my fault. I should have been able to identify that. Like, and I'm really bad about that with my wife too. I told Roger tonight. I'm like, well, I think my wife's mad at me, so I'm gonna go call her and see if I can make her more mad. That's exactly what I said. But then here's the thing. I walked away and I walked into the kitchenette, and I called her and I was like, hey, you okay? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, you don't sound okay. I'm like, I've talked to you a couple of times today and you seem upset. And she said, well, this is going on with the kids or whatever. And I'm like, okay, I just felt like you were upset with me. And she goes, no, I'm fine. But like, as soon as I identify it, I deal with it.
Yeah.
If I feel like I'm watching somebody burn out or I'm seeing somebody overwhelmed or stressed or whatever, I'm like, hey, I'm there. Because if they burn out, somebody's picking up their workload, and chances are it's me. And I don't want it. So I'm going to keep like figuring this stuff out. But developing leaders is a hard job. It's something that you have to learn how to do, and you have to be able to maneuver quickly. Because sometimes you walk into a meeting with somebody and you think you've got a plan, and then they throw you a curveball because they start crying because their mom passed away and you had no idea. And now you're trying to like navigate the emotional side of it, which I am not good at. It's hard. So,
And it's hard when you have your own workload.
yes.
Yeah.
Plus, you're trying to develop.
Yeah.
It's hard because you can't fully concentrate on that because you got your own.
Right.
You still have to
things.
complete tasks
Yeah,
on top
that's hard.
of develop those people. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good stuff. Good stuff. Anybody else got anything? Opinions?
We stay on topic.
Question. We did. We did stay on topic today. Well, I think, no, maybe we got a little bit off topic. I told one story. I don't remember which one it was. It was odd.
Your sister?
That one. That one, yeah.
Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy,
Eddie
that-
Murphy, yeah. I hope
Every
my
time
sis-
I see him now. That's,
Oh, I'll never forget that as long as because I was baffled by it. I couldn't figure it out.
Yep.
And I kept telling Alyssa, like, I can't do this. Every time I walk into the room, she's crying about Eddie Murphy. And once we figured it out, and also she was on some like wild meds too. So after she had the stroke, I know
maybe she was watching Dr. Dolittle one.
maybe I don't know.
I don't know. That would kind of make sense.
I don't know. But so they still had her on some of the narcotic drugs that I guess after a stroke you shouldn't be on. I'm not a doctor again. Just divert to the two nurses in the room, but there were certain medications she wasn't supposed to be on, but they didn't reevaluate her medication after the stroke. They just kept giving her all of her meds. And so I guess that led to some of that as well. Like there was a combination of things, but dude, it was wild.
Well, my mom recently, she was on lithium for a while, and that actually kept her stable for like semi-stable, I should say, for 6 or 7 years. But she became lithium toxic. And
What does that mean?
that like you have too much lithium in your system, and like she was
It's like eating batteries?
well, it's
Well, not
it's the
quite.
same stuff.
I
that's
knew he
in the
was going to say
batteries.
something
Yeah.
like that.
But I mean, it wasn't like a manic episode, but it was like confusion. Like we thought she had a stroke.
Yeah.
And come to find out, like, because she, like had the burner on the stove, and there were just certain things. And then she was talking to you on the phone and like couldn't even form a sentence, really.
Yeah.
They thought it was a stroke. No, it was just too much lithium.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's stuff that you
Yep.
can't even ever think about.
Yep.
You can't ever plan for it. So,
So,
okay. Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Sid, will you pray us out tonight?
dear Heavenly Father, Lord, I just thank you for this evening that we had. I thank you for allowing us to all just speak on our hearts and minds of, the causes that we're all so passionate about, Lord. I just thank you that, we all came across with good hearts and good intentions. And I just pray for travel mercies in your name. Amen.
Amen.